I don't remember buying this game. If you're a PC gamer, we all have games on our library that we've picked up on sale and forgotten about or never made the time for. And although we have hundreds of hours of playtime waiting for us in our library, we still buy out those Steam sales every time. Force of Nature was one of those games for me. I think I picked it up for less than $5 on sale because I like survival games and I thought the initial premise reminded me of The Sims 2 Castaway that my mom rented for me from Family Video once when I was a kid. But Force of Nature is actually a much better game than Sims 2 Castaway. It's much deeper. Throughout this review, I'm going to try to only show early game footage, as although this game isn't very narrative, I think the main fun I found from the game was exploring the island, which initially seems very normal, so I don't want to release any spoilers. But before I go deeper into Force of Nature, if there's any games you'd like to see me check out, make a comment below. I also made a spreadsheet of things that are on my list, which you can check out in the description, and consider subscribing. To start the game, you wash up on a beach of an island and you need to survive. You collect sticks, wood, rocks, etc., and you need to make tools, food, and some weapons to fight off goblins and bears in the woods. The game has a strict quest progression system in which you need to complete quests to level up. And it's not for me. For me, it feels really hand-holdy. Also, to level up, you need to complete all the quests and spend some resources. More on this later. The initial premise is pretty similar to any other survival game, except very early on you're prompted to find the pieces of the Force of Nature, which is a mysterious artifact, and chasing these pieces takes you on an adventure around the whole island, which is massive, by the way. And in doing so, you'll discover that there's so much more to this island than initially meets the eye. The appeal I found in this game, as I said, is exploring the world. There are 7 biomes, each with different creatures, plants, and sounds, and each one of them contains one piece of the Force of Nature. Each one also allows you to find a different gem, and from now on, to avoid spoilers, I'll refer to the biomes as the Ruby biome or the Amethyst biome or whatever. The world design overall for a cheap indie game like this is pretty nice. There are some really weird models, and the game is not visually impressive by any means, but its base price is like $8 on Steam. My expectations weren't high, and this game definitely exceeded. Some areas are very impressive. My favorite biomes are the Onyx and Amethyst biomes. The design for these I think is really creative for both the environment and the enemies and creatures within it. Speaking of enemies and creatures, this game has a much larger variety of things to kill than I anticipated. In each biome I explored, there was always something new to discover, and that's what got me to keep playing this game. Although the quests and level ups were pretty grindy, my curiosity to find the next piece of the Force of Nature and to find out what else this island had to offer kept me playing, as well as wanting to finish this video. I'll go into more details in the spoiler section of this video, but in case you want to play the game for yourself, that's all the comments I have for you for now. Really, if you're going to enjoy this game, you need to explore it for yourself. The world is very intriguing, yes, especially for a $5 game, and for $5 it took me about 32 hours to beat the game, which is quite a good value. So then why have only 3% of players actually beaten the game? Hell, even 2% of No Man's Sky players on Steam have beaten survival mode, which is basically like hard mode, and that shit sucks. Well, it's a massive grind. There are 13 levels, and after level 8 I was really starting to feel it. You know how I mentioned that you need to spend resources to level up? Well, the resources you typically need to spend are gems, which happen to be the rarest and most valuable resources in the game. So you completed all your quests for a given level, and then you need to spend a good chunk of time just farming these gem pieces, which depending on the environment can take a long time. Oh yeah, and then at the end of the game you need a ton more of them, and we'll spend hours at the end of the game just farming them. I understand grinds in games as good as anyone. I spent 5,000 plus hours on RuneScape, but this was not a fun grind. It just felt like I was wasting resources, and then you get to the very end of the game, and it was super anticlimactic. Like, what the hell was that ending? I was expecting so much more. To compound on top of this is the game's quality of life, or lack thereof. Like I said, you need a lot of resources, and I don't mind grinding to farm some resources. Hell, I spent hours chopping virtual trees before, but goddamn, don't make it such a pain in the ass. Really, a well can only hold 6 water? So I just gotta keep going back and forth to each well collecting 6 water 6 times every 90 seconds. Oh, and there's no inventory management shortcuts or hotkeys. Like if you right click, you can pick up one of an item from a stack, but let me shift click stacks into a chest or something. Or better yet, let me collect items from crafting stations and wells with control click like Factorio does. That would make collecting water so much more bearable. Also, it doesn't feel like the rewards from creatures scale very well to the creature's level. I can tell some higher level creatures have better drops, but mostly it doesn't feel worth it to go risk killing higher level things for things that I can find in the initial area. There's no incentive. The design of the game does force you to go kill higher level creatures, but again, it's all hand-holding and forced. For a game where the draw is to explore the world, I want to be able to explore the world freely, and not have to worry about collecting water every 90 seconds. Like, there's no way I could have semi-automated this. I couldn't have made a trough to fill with water for my animals, or not have to worry about water for my crops when it rains, or having a well in a radius of a crop plot allows me to use the water automatically instead of having to click the well, collect all, and then replant my crops. Maybe this isn't a big deal for some people, but for me it got really repetitive really fast. With that being said, there are fun, interesting things in the gameplay. The RPG elements are actually designed really well. The gear you unlock scales very well with the progression of the game and the new enemies you face. And as you get to the later levels, you unlock more creative ways to solve problems in combat, but it still keeps it challenging. Most of the gear you unlock you can make and solves a problem, which creates another resource intensive problem because you need to craft new warm clothes for colder biomes or whatever. The combat is nothing to write home about. It's pretty simple, but it works, and it's balanced. It's challenging, and it stays challenging because, like I said, the enemies scale well with your new gear, and there are different ways of approaching combat encounters. It takes some thought to approach some situations without getting your head bashed in, and there's quite an impressive variety of enemies. Again, my main complaint here is the grind. The gear scales well, like I said, in a way that incentivizes you to get all the new gear as you unlock it, but that's super resource intensive and expensive, and you end up spending a lot of time just collecting water to grow wheat to feed your sheep for wool, instead of exploring the interesting world that the devs created, which is what I would have rather spent more time doing. Okay, so this game is fun and totally worth the $5, but what the hell is this ending? I make the Force of Nature and get this pop-up that says, "Congratulations." That's it? No secrets about why the world's so funky and why there's moose in a 35°C jungle? Also, all the biomes require some kind of temperature gear, which is super annoying. I never get to use any new armor or anything. The progression for weapons and amulets is cool, but the gear options, especially for the diamond biome, are really limited. Maybe it's just the Wisconsinite in me, but you don't need full fur gear for -5°C. That's shorts and hoodie weather where I'm from. The design of some of these environments is really cool. Like I said, my visual expectations weren't high, and it's a $5 game, and for that it's mostly solid. But what the hell is this thing? Now, this doesn't really take away from the gameplay for me. The Onyx and Amethyst environments are really interesting and really visually pleasing, and some of them are a real challenge to navigate, like the Onyx biome, and you never know what you're going to come across. The first time I saw a golem, I was like, what the hell is that thing? Because I thought this game was just a typical survival game where you're cast away on an island, and I really wasn't expecting that. I'm not going to get nitpicky about how all the crops look the same until they're fully grown and stuff like that, because it's not important. I'm not IGN. The biggest issue with me is that the grindy gameplay gets really old really fast and just doesn't really feel worth it or really rewarding. Alright, here's some tips and tricks to help you reduce the grind if you decide to play. Collect everything, use Control and Alt to pick up stuff and harvest around you. It's the only quality of life feature in the game, so use it as much as you can to collect everything, because you need way more of everything than you think. Except beehives, you only need like 2 of those. Short swords are king. They do the least amount of damage, but being able to move your already slow character while swinging is huge and allows you to kill a ton of enemies without taking damage if you do it properly. And also it helps you save a lot on food and resources because you don't want to spend all your time collecting water to farm wheat. Movement speed is also awesome for this reason. Constantly make coal and ingots even when you have plenty. Get a sheep and constantly feed it as soon as you can. Start farming roses whenever you don't need wheat or coffee, especially green, blue, and white ones. Get as many as you can, you'll thank me later. If you grab this game on sale, or hell, even at full price, it's 100% worth it. Despite my gripes, I had fun playing this game, and honestly, with a few quality of life changes, I think this game could be really awesome. Like I said, the world's really interesting, and exploring it was a genuine adventure that gave me much more satisfaction than I expected from a $5 game. I found out while making this video that there's currently a Force of Nature 2 that came out recently. I'm interested to check that out, but I do have a million other games to get to, and honestly I'm a bit burnt out after making this video because of that grind. I hope they fix the quality of life changes, but I'm still feeling a bit burnt out and just really can't be asked. I'd like to get to it eventually, and I really hope Force of Nature 2 does address some of those issues. I think the concept for this game has a lot of potential, and I know this is a small indie dev, but I think that with some minor changes this could be a really cool game. But for now, 4 out of 10 Ranarr weeds. Worth it for the price, definitely. But it's a grind to finish and get to the end, and the story has kind of an anticlimactic ending. I was really hoping for more. More about the island, more about the story. Was just really hoping to get some kind of gratification for all the hours of grinding and collecting water that I put in. It was honestly pretty disappointing. But yeah, check out the description if you want to see that list of potential games and videos that I'd like to be working on. And leave a comment if you have any recommendations. And please subscribe if you enjoyed the video.